there, I'm Jessica with the Real AI Agents, and if you're like me, you love pushing the boundaries of creativity with AI tools. AI has opened a whole new world where anyone can turn a creative vision into a reality. And today, I'm here to help you take your AI art to the next level with some tips I've picked up over the last 2 years that I've been using these tools every day for content creation. Sure, you've probably heard tips I've shared with you in past videos, things like descriptive prompts, experimenting with lighting, or blending styles. But what if I told you there's a whole world of secrets to AI art prompting magic that most people overlook? Today, I'm sharing 10 advanced secrets I use that will help you create jaw-dropping, high-quality images that stand out. Whether you're using Leonardo AI, Ideogram, Dolly, Photon, Recraft, Flux, or any other generative AI platform. Now, here's the best part about creating with AI tools. You can keep it simple and still get incredible results, or you can get deep and really start exploring what these tools are capable of when you add a bit of creative vision to the process. These tips are designed to help you have fun with your creations while unlocking the true potential of AI generators. So stick around. Before we get started here though, be sure you give this video a like, and if you're new here, welcome. Be sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. If you've been here watching me for a while, say hello and let me know what you're working on in the comments. Now let's get into these magic prompting tips with some of our AI agents.
Tip number 1, use conceptual prompts.
Tip number 2, blend opposing themes.
Tip number 3, leverage negative space.
Tip number 4, use emotional lighting words.
Tip number 5, when possible, use action-oriented prompts.
Tip number 6, use a multi-layered prompt structure.
Tip number 7, utilize presets and styles when available on the tool.
Tip number 8, include artistic mediums in the prompt.
Tip number 9, use iterative prompt refinement.
Tip number 10, embrace subtle imperfections.
Bonus tip, optimize your workflow. All right, so now that the agents have told us the 10 tips, let's go ahead and break each one of those down. For the examples that I'm going to show you on how to use these tips in your prompting, I'm actually going to use Leonardo AI. It's the system I use a lot when I'm generating images, and there's a lot of features in here that I can show you guys as we're going through this. So it seemed like the right system to use. I'm going to use a very simple beginning prompt here. I'm going to come over to image creation. We're going to do all of these prompts in the Phoenix 1.0 preset. I'm going to turn the prompt enhance off because we want to really see what it does with these tips being added into a prompt without that enhancer. We're going to choose the style dynamic here. If you want to know more about any of the settings that I'm using, check out any of the other Leonardo AI tutorials we have. The playlist is linked in the description of this video. I'm just going to leave it on quality here, and I'm going to do 16:9 for the image dimensions, and I'm just going to do one at a time. I'm actually working on building out a library of some characters. So I need some mages in an enchanted forest wearing high-tech cloaks. So that's going to be the base of the images that we're going to create here as we go over this. So you can see my prompt right here. And if I go ahead and generate that, we can take a look here and we can see that it is a high-tech cloak. And it is a beautiful mage here in an enchanted forest. Definitely has a little of that blurry background going on back here. So if we implement tip 1 into this prompt, which was using conceptual prompts, that would mean that we need to add words that will focus on the mood, the story, or the symbolism of the image, rather than just describing the objects we want to see in the image. So, for example, I could prompt something more like a serene enchanted forest representing harmony, which would be our conceptual word there, glowing with bioluminescent plants, vibrant golden leaves, and soft green mist, with a beautiful mage in a high-tech cloak channeling energy through her hands. So that would be another one of those conceptual phrases there. So let's go ahead and create that one. Okay, and if we take a look here, we can see definitely change the overall vibe of the image. We've got those golden leaves with the plant life even back here. The colors kind of merged together here in a sense of harmony. There is definitely a more calm vibe to this image versus the other one. So you can see that adding a conceptual focus like harmony really guides the AI to create a balanced, emotionally resonant image. So what are some other examples of conceptual prompts? You've got things like prompting for the mood and emotion, like nostalgic, or ethereal, or tranquil. There's concept words for atmosphere, like dreamlike, apocalyptic, celestial. Or there's concept words for action or storytelling, like awakening, illumination, enchantment. There's conceptual words for artistic style, cinematic, steampunk, hyper-realistic. There's also words for nature and different settings you can do, like volcanic, arctic. Or if you really want to elevate, you can use multiple conceptual words inside of your prompt. So if we take a look at tip number 2, which is blending opposing themes, we can see that by combining drastically different themes, it can result in a visually unique and high-impact piece of art. So for example, I'm going to generate this image, and the prompt I'm going to use is a beautiful mage wearing a high-tech cloak with glowing circuitry, standing in an ancient magical forest surrounded by futuristic holographic runes and ethereal golden light breaking through the trees. Okay, so take a look at how different this one is from where we started. You can see that by blending futuristic and magical elements, it really created a contrast that's unique and intriguing. We've got these glowing sort of ancient ruins behind her here. She's still got on the high-tech cloak. She still has a very magical vibe to her, and she is still in the enchanted forest. But that image is very different from our simple prompt. If we go back and we just take a look here, you can tell there's a lot more magic going on in this setting. So you might be thinking, what are some of those contrasting themes that you could try yourself? Try combining like we did here, futuristic and ancient, or light versus dark, or technology versus nature. Or one of my personal favorites to combine is the spiritual and mechanical. I think that those produce really cool images a lot of the times. So tip number 3 is one a lot of people don't think of when they first start using these AI image generators, and that is using the negative space. So sometimes, just like in life, less is actually more. Using negative space emphasizes the subject and creates a striking composition in your image. So for example, if I change my prompt to something like a beautiful mage wearing a high-tech cloak standing on a floating rock in the middle of a vast enchanted forest with glowing blue mist surrounding her and a faintly glowing crescent moon in the night sky, watch what happens. So we can see here that by using words like vast and the blue glowing mist surrounding her, how much more of a focus there is on the actual mage herself here. She's still wearing that high-tech glowing cloak that we were looking for. It's got the crescent moon in the background, and she looks much more powerful with the separation of the actual trees behind her here. So using that negative space really kind of gave her the pop that I needed here for this image. Tip number 4, use emotional lighting words. So we've talked about lighting and how to include that in your prompts before in videos, but this is actually a little bit different than just using words like illuminated or spotlight or dimly lit. This goes deeper with something that sounds a little like a prompt that goes, a beautiful mage in a high-tech cloak standing in a magical forest, illuminated by warm golden light streaming through the trees, with her glowing staff casting soft, ethereal shadows on the forest floor. So you see then how we really took Illuminated and gave it more detail by adding in warm golden light streaming through the trees. And then we've added the addition of her glowing staff now to create that soft shadow that we want to see. So let's go ahead and generate this. Okay, and you can see here that the warm lighting really conveys an inviting magical atmosphere that's enhancing the emotional depth of the image. So it took away some of the magic look to her cloak here, but you can still tell that it is meant to be like a high-tech kind of cloak. The glowing staff it put in her hand, it's actually missing like the rest of the staff, it looks like here, but she does have 4 fingers and her hand is actually positioned correctly on how it would hold the end of that staff. So I'm very happy with that. You can see the warm golden light streaming through the trees here really adds a sense of ambiance to this picture. Tip number 5, when possible, use action-oriented prompts. So if you're into AI creation right now, chances are you've gone beyond just creating some images into AI animation and AI film work. There are a ton of great providers out there where you can do AI short stories and short videos and honestly long videos using these AI tools. I personally use systems like Runway, Luma Dream Machine, Pixverse, but there are a ton of video generators out there, and most of them will do image to video. So if you can get a really good image to pull over into those systems, sometimes that can be helpful if you're trying to create a consistent scene or a consistent character, which can be very difficult to do, at least right now. In a couple months, it may be a very different story. But by incorporating motion into the prompt, it really can bring action and life into the photo. So while it's preparing it to go over into one of the animators, it's also going to make the image pop itself. So if I put here a beautiful mage in a high-tech cloak summoning a swirling vortex of golden energy with glowing particles of light spiraling around her in a mystical enchanted forest, you can see how much detail is added to this image. Now, she does have way too many fingers. It looks like actually way too many fingers on both hands. So that is something where I would have to edit this to create symmetrical hands that are anatomically correct. Or I could use an in-painting feature on some of these different platforms to correct that. But you can see the swirls of the golden light here. Once I put animation on this image will be so much more detailed and brought to life than something like the original image. For tip number 6 here, we have use a multi-layered prompt structure. So what I mean by that is your prompt does not have to look like the prompts that I just did. You can do something like this, where I put background and what I want for the background, a mystical enchanted forest glowing with bioluminescent plants and ethereal mist. And then I can identify my subject, a beautiful mage wearing a high-tech cloak, holding a glowing staff, pulsing with energy. And then I can tell it my style, fantasy realism with intricate details on the cloak and staff. And finally, I can add my lighting, soft, moonlit with golden highlights illuminating the scene. Okay, so we can see here that by breaking the prompt into those layers, it really gives a cohesive, detailed, and balanced image. So it has the mystical enchanted forest glowing with bioluminescent plants and an ethereal mist. Definitely has that for the background. The subject here is a beautiful mage wearing the high-tech cloak, holding a glowing staff pulsating with energy. So all of those things are correct. Again, needs a little work on her hand. Another way I could fix that is by putting in a negative prompt for better hands to be created. But the next thing we have in that layered prompt is the style. So fantasy realism with intricate detail on the staff and cloak. So definitely has that detail on her outfit and on the staff. Very well done there. And the lighting has a soft moonlight with golden highlights. So we can see the moon really shining through here. It's a little brighter than I would expect it to be for a moonlit image, but all in all, it did follow all of those directions correctly. So if you're someone who sees your prompts easier structured like that, just know that that is one way that you can prompt these systems. That works in most of the generators that I've tried. So tip number 7 is actually my favorite tip. This is utilizing the presets and styles available on each specific tool. So this one is the exact reason why I chose Leonardo to use for the demonstration that I'm doing, because it has so many options for your preset models and the different effects that you can do, the different styles, the different elements. If you've been here for a while, you know I love making images using the elements inside of Leonardo. So if you'd like to know more about that, please check out one of those videos in the playlist below. But let me show you what I mean here. So if I come in and we can see, I'm just going to put a more simple prompt of a celestial mage wearing a high-tech cloak with glowing cosmic patterns, standing in a magical forest under a starlit sky surrounded by swirling golden mist and glowing orbs, cinematic realism. And if I come over and I change my style here to match that, I'm going to choose cinematic. We can see that this time it actually changed it to a male character here instead of the female character, which is interesting. But he does have on a cool glowing high-tech cloak. A lot of that glowing orb magic is back here. You can see it is much more like a film-like quality than if I go back to the setting we were on and make a dynamic one. Or if I change to, for example, Kino, which is known for the realism over here in Leonardo, and I'll create one there, versus something like even Flux here. If I go to Flux and I choose creative, or if I need anime, I can come in and do anime. And you can see that by tweaking the settings, I went from our cinematic one here to the dynamic one, which again made a male character, to this one over in Kino, which is the character seen from behind. Very interesting take on that. Haven't seen that one yet in the ones I've been producing, but definitely has that glowing golden orb. I actually really like that one in Kino there. Oh, it did the same here with the Flux dev one that we did. So character from behind, so you can't really tell whether it's male or female. And then the glowing golden, this is almost like an ember versus the orbs, but still very cool. All the way to an anime version of the same thing. So you can see the golden light still coming through the magical cloak here, but it is a completely different style. And all I had to do was change the actual settings that I was on. So that's a good, helpful tip if you're feeling stuck or you're just trying to come up with a vision, but you're not really sure what you need. Go in, use one prompt and try it on different filters, different styles, different presets, whatever the image generator offers you. Get in and play with those tools and really get to understand what the different models are, what the different LoRa's are. Even how you can train your own in a lot of these systems is very helpful for getting better image results from your prompting. Okay, so tip number 8 is include artistic mediums in the prompt. So if I were to put something like a beautiful mage wearing a high-tech cloak painted in oil on canvas, standing in a magical enchanted forest with glowing mist and vibrant golden foliage, thick brush strokes, and textured details. Watch what happens. Let me get back to where we were here on the Phoenix and the dynamic. And look here, we're back to the female character. You can really see the texture in this image, especially if you look here at the flowers. It does look like oil painted onto a canvas. You can almost feel the ridges here of these trees. This looks like a painting on canvas. This is great. This honestly reminds me of one of those paintings you might do if you were doing like a sip and paint or one of those couples nights out sort of activity painting events. The only thing I don't necessarily love about this one is the way that it has her cloak up like the hood on her cloak, but it still has her hair out. But it is magic. Maybe she has a hole in the back that her hair is pulled through. So I'll give it that one. But other than that, the texture is great here. You can really tell that an artistic medium was put into the prompt to create this image. Tip number 9 is iterative prompt refinement. So sometimes you don't always know what you want the end result to be. And in that case, if you're okay spending the tokens or the credits or the amount of image generation that is used when you produce an image in whatever system you're in, this is a very useful tool to be able to go in and start building your prompts, especially if you're a beginner. Just start with something simple and add to it from there. So for example, if I put in a beautiful mage in a high-tech cloak standing in a magical forest with glowing plants, and I go from there to a beautiful mage in a high-tech cloak with intricate glowing circuits surrounded by ethereal mist in a magical forest with glowing bioluminescent flowers. And then I can level it up from there with a beautiful mage in a high-tech cloak surrounded by glowing golden mist and vibrant bioluminescent plants, holding a crystal staff with intricate circuitry in a magical enchanted forest. And I've now gone from my basic prompt here to a mid-level prompt by adding on to it, to an even more intricate and detailed prompt here. We can see the crystal with the glowing golden orb inside, really added the detail here on her outfit. Definitely much different. Iterative refinement adds depth and complexity, ensuring the image aligns with your vision step by step. Now, that's not always feasible if you're on a system where you have very limited amounts of generations or tokens. This might not be something you want to do on here. This might be something where you want to develop your prompt in a system that's free and lets you do as many generations as you can. And then you can bring your prompt over into a system where it has a little bit more of a high token cost, or you get less generations on whatever plan it is you're on. So tip number 10 is embrace subtle imperfections. This can be really difficult to do if you're someone who is a perfectionist and you see these images versus what you have envisioned in your mind and they're just not matching up perfectly. That can really be a struggle. You do have to learn to give over some of the creative freedom to the AI generation system. So for example, if I put in a beautiful mage in a high-tech cloak standing in an enchanted forest with weathered circuitry on her cloak, moss-covered stones at her feet, and slightly cracked glowing crystal in her staff, sometimes you can plan for those subtle imperfections in your prompting by doing things like weathered circuitry or cracked glowing. Other times, the imperfections just come while you're generating. You just learn to accept them, embrace them, and live with them. If we take our example here and we look, we can see it really gave a weathered look to her cloak garment here. And you can see the cracks very subtly on the crystal of her glowing staff. But I'll take it because it gave her a thumb and 4 fingers. So that's a win. My bonus tip for you is to optimize your workflow. So using advanced tools and techniques can really refine your image even further. So if I take this prompt, a beautiful mage wearing a high-tech cloak with glowing holographic patterns standing in glowing mystical forest temple, surrounded by light beams and intricate magical tattoo glowing faintly on her face, chances are this image is going to come off having some imperfections for sure. Face tattoos are very difficult. And there we go. We can see the tattoos don't really seem to match. They're sort of random here on her face. One way I could fix that would be by using the canvas editor in a tool like Leonardo. So I could come in and I could mask these and change them around. I could also make that image better by coming into the universal upscaler here. I can hit add image, and then I can head over to my generations and I can choose that image. And I have 2 choices. I can use the Ultra Upscaler, which would cost 44 tokens, or I could use the Legacy Upscaler, which would cost 90 tokens. I will go ahead and show you what happens if we use the Legacy here. So I'll spend the 90 tokens so you don't have to, and you can get an idea of what it would look like. And I can't talk about optimizing workflows without talking about organizing your images. I highly suggest using a tool like Notion or Airtable to organize and catalog your images as you go. That way you can use features like style reference and elements a lot easier in systems. Most of the AI image generation systems now have something very similar to this describe with AI that's over on Leonardo. So if I come in and I choose an image, let's go ahead and go with this one. I liked this one. We can see that it then is going to give me a prompt that shows me how the AI has interpreted the image that I just gave it. So while it is different than the prompt that I used to generate the image, if I come up here and I do this style reference, I can come over to the generations and I can choose that same one. And let's say I want it to be very similar to this image, but I want it to be in a different preset. So I'm going to come over to the albedo here and I'm going to change this to dynamic. And even though I want it to look like this image, I really want it to pop more. So I can come up here and I can start choosing elements. I'm not going to go over a lot of these today. I've done plenty of videos on how to use these elements and what combinations work well together. But just to show you an example, I'll go ahead and choose glow wave. And we'll do a little of this cosmic retro here. I can change the weight of these elements. So I'm going to set this on 0.3 and I'm going to set this one on 0.2. Leonardo is notorious for being able to put these elements on, but if you're using a system like Midjourney, they also have things called style references or srefs. You may have heard of those before. It has the same vibe to it. You put that in and the image you generate should be more on point with the style that you have entered in. So if we see here, that image is very close to the original image, but it has much more of a glow. It is sort of a cartoon illustrated image, as we often get in the albedo here. And the cosmic retro is what gives the background that feel there. Those aren't as predominant as I would like them to be, so let me try switching it up here and we'll just go to 0.7 on the glow wave and we'll add in some rainbow core. And we'll take off the cosmic retro. If you're ever curious which ones you've put on a prompt so that you know and you can add those words that you used as your reference or your elements into another system, you can come over to the Elements tab here and it will show you. So if I were to do this in a different system, I could always put something like glow wave into the prompt and see what I got in a different system. So here we go. We can see, I don't like this at all, how it produced the hair here and went very anime, but it is overall a very different look than what we originally had. And then same here where we moved those weights up a little bit on each one of those. You can see a very different image. If I still wanted it to be that overall look from the image, but with a different style, I could come in and I could do style reference. And I can choose an image here that is completely different. So let's just randomly pick this one here. And I can go high, and then I'll turn off the prompt here so we can see both prompt enhance on and prompt enhance off since we're back in the Phoenix. So you can see that by having the prompt enhance on, it did extend my prompt out into a longer, more detailed prompt. But if we take a look here, you can see it pulled in the pink color very well. Give her like a pink, fuzzy, bioluminescent plant growing on her there, which is a little weird, but not if you take into consideration the fact that there's a huge pink bioluminescent plant growing in the window of my reference image that I put in. So when you think about that, it did exactly what it was supposed to do there. And then here it is with that prompt enhance off. So it kind of gave that fluffy plant pink feel to the actual flowers on the ground here. I really actually like this one a lot, except that it made this arm a little bit skinnier than this arm. So it kind of looks a little awkward there, but overall that's a cool image. I think that would look really good upscaled. So there you go, guys. Those are my 10 advanced tips to help you, plus one little bonus. If you haven't already, be sure you connect with me over on X at The Real AI Agents. That way you can share your work with me and you can see more of my creative projects and different challenges that we do over there. Thanks for spending some time with me today. My name's Jessica with The Real AI Agents, and as always, keep looking towards the future.